जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam session. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. And we are going to read text 11. Satre mamasa bhagavan hayashirashatho sakshat sayagya purushastapaniya varnaha छन्दोमयो मखमयोऽखिल देवतात्मा वाचो बभूवुरुषतीश्वसतोऽस्य नस्तः सत्रे ममास भगवान् हयशिरशाथो साक्षात् स यज्ञपुरुषस्तपनीयवर्णः छन्दोमयो मखमयोऽखिल देवतात्मा वाचो बभूवुरुषतीश्वसतोऽस्य नस्तः सत्रे ममास भगवान् हयशिरशाथो साक्षात् स यज्ञपुरुषस्तपनीयवर्णः छन्दोमयो मखमयोऽखिल देवतात्मा वाचो बभूवुरुषतीश्वसतोऽस्य नस्तः. Please chant.
Hare Krishna. Satre Mamas Bhagavan Harashish Shatho Shakshat Sayagya Purushastapadiya Varnaha Chandomayo Makhamayo Khila Devatatma Vacho Vabhu Burishati Swastosyanastah.
तत्रे मम स भगवान् हयशीरशाथो साक्षात् स यज्ञपुरुषस्तपनीयवर्णः छन्दोमयो मखमया किल देवतात्मा वाचो बभूवुरुसती स्वसतस्य नष्टः।
Hare Krishna. Sastre manaso. Sastre mamasha bhagavan hayasira sato raksha sayagna purusata paniya vana chando mayo makamayo kila devatatma vacho babu purushati swasvato shanasta.
Hare Krishna. Shatre mamasha bhagavano haya shirasto shakato yasha yagna purushastapaniyo varna chando mayo makamayo akhila devatma vacho bahubhur ushateha shvashato shayana nastaha. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण। सत्रे ममास भगवान हया शीर्षाथो साक्षात् स यज्ञ पुरुषस्तपनीय वर्णः चंदोमयो मखामयो अखिल देव तात्मा वाचो बहुपुरुषातिः अस्वसतोऽस्य नस्तः। हरे कृष्ण। थैंक यू।
Anyone else? Okay, we'll do word-to-word translation. Satre, in the sacrificial ceremony. Mama, of mine. Asa, appeared. Bhagavan, the supreme, the personality of Godhead. Haya Shirasha, with his horse-like head. Atha, thus. Sakshat, directly. Saha, he. Yagya Purushaha, the person who is pleased by performances of sacrifice. Tapaniya, golden. Varnaha, hue. Chandahamayaha, personified Vedic hymns. Makhamayaha, personified sacrifices. Akhila, all that be. Devata Atma, the soul of the demigods. Vachaha, sounds. Babhuvuhu, become audible. Ushati, very pleasing to hear. Shvasataha, while breathing. Asya, his. Nastaha, through the nostrils. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, Brahma. He is the personified sacrifices, and the hue of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well, and the super soul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils. I'll read the translation again. The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me. Who's me? Brahma. the sacrifice performed by Brahma. The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me. He is the personified sacrifices, and the hue of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well, and the super soul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils. Purport. The Vedic hymns are generally meant for sacrifices performed by fruitive workers who also want to satisfy the demigods to achieve their fruitive result. But the Lord is the personified sacrifices and personified Vedic hymns. Therefore, one who is directly a devotee of the Lord is a person who has automatically both served the purposes of sacrifices and pleased the demigods. The devotees of the Lord may not perform any sacrifice or may not please the demigods as per Vedic injunctions. And still, the devotees are on a higher level than the fruitive workers or the worshippers of different demigods. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, thank you very much for joining Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning. So this chapter is about the various transcendental leelas of the Lord, transcendental avatars of the Lord. Or in other words, the leela avatars. The leela avatars means the incarnation is not the right word, but there is no other word in English for avatar. Avatar literally means one who descends from a higher realm to a lower realm. That's avatar. But when you say incarnate or incarnation, carnal means body made of flesh, isn't it? So when you say incarnate, means someone who has accepted a body made of flesh and blood, which is not true, because the Lord never accepts a material body. He descends in his original transcendental body, Satchidananda Vigraha. So therefore, incarnation is not an appropriate word, but there is no word in English which can match, which can mean avatar. So therefore, the word incarnation is used. So this chapter is talking about the Leela avatars of the Lord, the incarnations of the Lord, the pastime incarnations of the Lord. Whereas the previous chapter, the previous few chapters were talking about the Lord's pastimes of creation, his pastimes of creation, Srishti Leelas. Whereas these are called Madhura Leela, sweet pastimes of the Lord. So there are various avatars of the Lord. We've been hearing about several avatars in the past few days. So today we are reading about the Hayagriva avatar. Hayagriva means the Lord who has the head of a horse. Like you have Narasimha, means the Lord who has whose body is half lion and half man. Nara Simha. Nara means man, Simha means lion. Nara Simha. Similarly, Hayagriva means one with the head of a horse. Srila Prabhupada doesn't elaborate on the Hayagriva incarnations specifically, but Srila Prabhupada in the purport brings out. So, just a little bit of history about Hayagriva incarnation. At the beginning of creation means after annihilation. So there are annihilations regularly taking place. After each day of Lord Brahma, there is annihilation. And there's other smaller annihilations also. But at the beginning of creation, the Vedas are stolen by two demons called Madhu and Kaitava. Madhu and Kaitava. Then, so this happened after annihilation. Now, when it's time for creation, so Lord Brahma sleeps at night, and when he wakes up in the morning, he has to create again. Something like, I mean, just for our understanding, on a smaller scale, right? Every morning you have to go and prepare breakfast. You have to cook for that day. It's not that I have cooked yesterday, so I don't have to cook today, right? You cook your meals all day today and everything is finished, and you go to bed and you wake up in the morning, and again you have to, again, cut vegetables, and you have to prepare a whole meal, right? You have to create, right, the next meal for that day, something like that. So Lord Brahma, when he sleeps at night, there is annihilation, partial annihilation. Partial annihilation means all the lower planets up to Swarga, lower, middle, and upper up to Swarga. They're all completely destroyed, annihilated. And what happens to all the living entities that live? Living entities means the jivas, the people living there. So their bodies are destroyed, of course, because there is severe heat, and then there is severe rainfall. So the whole universe, not the whole universe, but up to Swarga, it is inundated. First, there is scorching heat, there's blazing fire. It's like 10,000 or 10 millions, I forget the number, of suns, burning at the same time. So it's so much heat. With one sun, in summertime, people even die because of heat. And imagine if there were so many suns at a time. It's devastation. Everything gets burnt. No life can sustain in that heat. And then after that, there is rain. So at that time, all these, the living entities themselves, with their subtle bodies, they all go into Lord Brahma's body and they rest. And Lord Brahma enters into Garbhodakashai, Vishnu's body. And then they all rest. They rest. And then the next day, Lord Brahma wakes up. So when he wakes up, what does he have to do now? All these living entities that are in him, he has to award them their bodies according to their karma. So the living entities are still carrying, there's a like a like a blueprint or something where all their karma is there recorded. So they are in a state of rest. And then when they wake up in the morning, when Lord Brahma wakes up, well, they don't wake up because they only wake up after they get their bodies. They're in a dormant state. But now when Lord Brahma wakes up, he has to award them their bodies. He has to create everything. His part of creation, he has to do it all over again. Now for him to create, what does he need? If you have to, if you are given a task, a project, what do you do? What do you need to start that job? You need some guidelines, you need a manual, isn't it? So Lord Brahma also needs that. What is that? The Vedas. The Vedas contain all knowledge, all types of knowledge, whether it material or spiritual. Everything is there in the Vedas. The duties of different types of people, how many types of life forms should be there, the names of different objects, right? Water, when you say the word water and the object water, right? When you say what, well, in Sanskrit, you say jalam, right? So when you say jalam, it indicates that particular object. So all this knowledge is there in the Vedas, and Lord Brahma needs this to create. So once these two demons, Madhu and Kaitava, stole the Vedas, and now Lord Brahma has to create, and he's in anxiety. How is he going to create without the Vedas? So then he prays to the Supreme Lord, and the Lord comes in the form of Hayagriva. He kills these two demons, Madhu and Kaitava, and he delivers the Vedas to Lord Brahma. Now you may not imagine the Vedas in the form of a book and Lord Hayagriva is giving the book. The book form comes only in Kali Yuga because we are Manda, Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya, Hupadruta, right? Manda, we are very, we have all bad qualities. Our memory is very short. We are very lazy. We are unfortunate, right? And we are always disturbed. These are the qualifications of the people of Kali Yuga. So with all, or you can say disqualifications, with all these disqualifications, we cannot retain all that knowledge, Vedic knowledge. But in previous yugas, before Kali Yuga, people were quite advanced. They didn't need books. Actually, we think that now we have these computers and all these devices which can store so much information, and we think we have made so much advancement. Actually, this shows how poor we are now. We are not able to retain all that knowledge, so we need all these external gadgets to store that information. Whereas previously, even within our lives, before we had all these computers and all these things, we used to depend on books, isn't it? Even within ISKCON, I remember before we got the, the MP3s and all that, we used to just have those cassettes and we would listen to those lectures. And as far as books, all we had were the books, Bhagavad Gita, and you would memorize all the verses. You would memorize, you would study and you would memorize and you would be able to retain them. And Somebody asks you, what is this verse? And immediately you're able to quote, oh, it's from this chapter and it is this verse. And now we have the search system. We don't have to memorize anything. You just go and search. Use the help of some device. Talk about math. We used to do all the calculations with our hands. Multiplication, division, everything. All of you, I think we used to do that, isn't it? Now our children, even those who are in, primary school, elementary school, they use calculators to do simple addition, multiplication. What does this tell us? On one hand, we think we are so advanced. Actually, we are so dull. Our minds have become so dull, our brains are so dull that we are not able to retain anything. The capacity of the brain is reduced because of the influence of Kali Yuga, and we become so dependent in every field. You go to kitchen also, you'll see. We are very proud that now we have, all these different, we have the stand mixers, and we have refrigerators, and we have this and that. And earlier we used to be able to do everything with our hands, right? Anyway, that's a side discussion. But yes, so Lord Brahma, he needs the Vedas to create. So Lord Hayagriva delivered the Vedas. So he didn't give them in the form of a book. So before this Kali Yuga, even books were not there. It was simply spoken. It was spoken, and it was the teacher, the guru would speak, and the disciple would hear, and he would remember it for life. And so nicely he would remember it that he could actually pass it on to his disciples. And in this way the knowledge was passed on. But in Kali Yuga, Vyasadeva could foresee, even before Kali Yuga began, Vyasadeva could foresee the deplorable condition of the people of Kali Yuga. So out of his compassion, he has given the Vedas in a written form. Not just a written form, but he even divided the Veda. It was all just one. The entire Vedas was just one literature or one scripture, which was spoken by the Guru and given to the disciple. Of course, according to the need. It's not that everyone will get everything. Just like, there's Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Shudras, of course, don't go to Guru. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya go to Guru. When they go to Gurukula, they study as students. Then it's not that the Guru will teach everything to all the students. No, he will teach the Brahmana what the Brahmana needs to know. First of all, he will identify who is a Brahmana, who is a Kshatriya, who is a Vaishya, according to his guna, quality, according to his nature. He will recognize, and then he will teach him what is useful to him from the Vedas. So it's not that everyone is supposed to know everything. But the Guru would have it. The Guru would have it. And he would teach according to the need of the students. But when Kali Yuga started, or before Kali Yuga started, Vyasadeva saw these people don't have the capacity to, they cannot even remember the whole Vedas. I mean, they cannot even remember one section of the Vedas. They don't have that capacity. So he divided. Vyasa means one who divides. That's Vyasa. So Vyasadeva divided the one Veda into 5 parts. Into Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda and Itihasa Puranas. Itihasa Puranas are also Veda, Panchama Veda. So Itihasa means Mahabharat and Puranas, you have 18 Puranas. 18 Puranas. All these are Vedas. So he divided and he gave in a written form. And he gave each of these to each of his students, different student, and made that person responsible, in charge of that particular Veda. And now he must pass it on to the next generation. And that disciple will pass on to the next generation. In this way, one Veda was divided into 5 parts. That's how we have the written form of Vedas now in Kali Yuga. But previously they didn't need that. So what to speak of Brahmaji at the beginning of creation? Certainly he didn't need, the written form or anything. But Lord Hayagriva, his Leela is that he retrieved the Vedas from these 2 demons, Madhu and Kaitaba, killed them, retrieved the Vedas, and then gave the Vedas back to Lord Brahma. Now, you may ask, how did they steal? If it's not in a book form, how did they steal the Vedas? I'm also not sure, but they took away the memory from Lord Brahma. They took it away from him. How they did it? I think it is mentioned at the end of the 8th canto. Like he was yawning, Lord Brahma was yawning, and they just stole the Vedas, something like that. But they stole the Vedas. So Lord Brahma didn't have that. And why he was yawning? Because it's time to go to bed now. Go to sleep. So anyway, so that is Hayagriva avatar. So that avatar is being glorified here. Now let's look at Srila Prabhupada's purport on this. The Vedic hymn, so again, I'll read the translation. The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, Brahma. So Brahmaji performed a sacrifice. He was praying to the Lord, I need the Vedas. And the Lord appeared as Hayagriva. And who is this Hayagriva? He is the personified sacrifices. The sacrifices personified is Lord Hayagriva. His body is golden. And the personified Vedas is also the Lord. So Hayagriva is the personified sacrifices and also the personified Vedas. And he is the super soul of all living entities. He is the super soul of all the demigods. And when he breathed, the Vedic hymns come out of his nostrils. So that's how he delivered the Vedas to Lord Brahma. The Vedas were coming out from his nostrils. When the Lord breathed, the Vedas came out from his breath. And let's look at Srila Prabhupada's purport. Very, very interesting. The Vedic hymns are generally meant for sacrifices performed by fruitive workers. Vedic hymns, that's why I said the Vedas have all types of knowledge. They have material knowledge and spiritual knowledge also. Material knowledge, what are the duties of a Brahmana? What are the duties of a Kshatriya? How should you keep yourself clean? What are the various recipes, right, to prepare different types of food items? And what else? How to educate your children and how to protect your country against the enemies. Everything is there. There is no knowledge that is not there in the Vedas. Okay. So, the Vedic knowledge, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryogakshema Atmavan. Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Traigunya means the three gunas. The three gunas, goodness, passion, and ignorance. What are these three? This is the material world, material energy. Goodness, passion, and ignorance are the three modes of material nature. And the Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. That means majority, 3/4 of the Vedas, majority of the Vedas is talking about how to conduct yourself in this material world. How to make profit and all these things. How to live in this material world. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Only one portion, like a small portion of the Vedas, is actually talking about transcendence. But most of the Vedas is talking about fruitive activity. Why? Can you guess why the Vedas are talking about fruitive activity mostly? Why would the Vedas talk about fruitive activities?
To attract people.
So we gradually elevate.
Okay. To gradually.
Because this material world, like pretty
Yeah,
activity.
this is
Yeah.
the material world. Why people are in this material world? Because they want to enjoy separate from Krishna, isn't it? So they are interested in material activity, in fruitive activity. If I do this, what am I going to get? So they find it very attractive. They will come to the Vedas, isn't it? They'll come to the Vedas. This is something of interest to them. Then what is the purpose? Simply to give them the material result? Okay, you want a son, then you perform this particular yagya. You want to go to heaven, you perform this particular yagya, this particular sacrifice. You want to be the king of the whole planet Earth, then you do this particular sacrifice. Is that the only purpose of the Vedas? Simply to satisfy your desires, material desires, to give you an opportunity to enjoy? Is that all the Vedas have to offer? No. This is to, as one of the devotees said, to elevate your Prannath Prabhu, I think, to elevate your consciousness gradually. So first you will be drawn, right? Because you have something which is interesting there. So you'll come. And then you start obeying what is said in the Vedas. By that, by obedience to the Vedas, what are the Vedas? See? He is the personified Vedas. The Lord is the personified Vedas. So when someone is obedient to the Vedas, he is actually being obedient to the Lord. In an indirect way, of course. But still, he's showing some obedience to the Lord there. Because of that obedience, he will be protected from gliding down to hell. Even if he wants some sense enjoyment, if he does it according to the injunctions given in the Vedas, very gradually he will make some progress just because of his obedience to the Vedas. Okay. So Vedic hymns are generally meant for sacrifices performed by fruitive workers. Yes. So all these sacrifices that are there in the Vedas, generally, mostly, they're meant for fruitive workers. And these sacrifices will, always you will see, involve worshipping and satisfying the demigods. Because it is a fruitive activity. Fruitive activity, you want some material result. And the demigods are in charge of giving you material results. So these Vedic sacrifices involve satisfying the demigods. And of course, getting fruitive result. And these sacrifices are accompanied by Vedic hymns. There will be mantras, Vedic mantras. They are also given in the Vedas. These Vedic sacrifices are accompanied by Vedic hymns. But the goal is you want some material result. So we saw the purpose, why we have to follow the Vedas. Because this is the Lord's plan, that by obedience to the Vedas, they will actually, the goal, I can actually show you something here. This one. See, this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, text 15. The Lord is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the supreme personality of Godhead and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. That means if you're showing obedience to Vedas, you're actually worshipping the Lord. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home, eventually. Eventually. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. Okay. So, the purpose is to give you a direction in life so that you can at least get on track. But what is the goal? The goal is you must reach the Supreme Lord. How do you reach the Supreme Lord? You have two paths. There are other paths, but broadly you can say there are two paths. Other paths means they can be, under these two paths. For example, there is bhakti and there is jnana, two paths. Jnana path, the goal is liberation. You want to go and merge into Brahman. Bhakti path, the goal is Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is a qualification. For someone to take to the path of Jnana, there is a qualification. For someone to take to the path of Bhakti, also there is a qualification. If you don't meet that requirement, then you have to do karma. That is why karma is given in the Vedas. And in karma also there is karma kanda, where you're still attached to the results. You want the results. So karma kanda is there. And then as you go higher, then you do nishkama karma yoga, where you are still working because you have still that shraddha to work, but you give up the result of your work. You give up attachment to the fruit of the work. And now you are actually preparing to enter into jnana by nishkam karma yoga. But to reach the ultimate goal, or to reach the absolute truth, there is two paths. There is jnana and there is bhakti. You may say, then what about yoga? Yoga can be categorized under bhakti if your goal is Paramatma. And if your goal is by doing yoga, you want to go and merge into Brahman, then that can also actually be categorized under jnana. So that is why mainly there are two paths. Now, what is Srila Prabhupada saying in the purport? But the Lord is the personified sacrifices and personified Vedic hymns. Therefore, one who is directly a devotee of the Lord is a person who has automatically both served the purposes of sacrifices and pleased the demigods. So, when you are performing these Vedic sacrifices, you are supposed to chant Vedic hymns and you're supposed to satisfy the demigods, isn't it? But these Vedic hymns and Vedic sacrifices are the energy of the Supreme Lord. That means you're using the Lord's energy for your sense gratification. You want some fruitive results. That is why that type of worship is indirect worship. It's not direct worship of the Supreme Lord. Whereas if someone becomes, he is directly a devotee of the Lord. If someone is directly a devotee of the Supreme Lord, then he is not required to do any type of sacrifices. Sacrifices that are given in the Vedas, or to satisfy any demigods. It's not required. The devotees of the Lord may not perform any sacrifice or may not please the demigods as per Vedic injunctions. And still the devotees are on a higher level than the fruitive workers or the worshippers of different demigods. That means even if they didn't follow the Vedic injunctions of performing Vedic sacrifices, chanting Vedic mantras during these sacrifices, satisfying the various demigods, because we read in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita that the demigods are providing us with all the needs, right? And if those who don't offer them back to the demigods and they simply take the gifts, then they are thieves. You have to perform sacrifice. Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati haiha aghayur indriya ramo mogham parthasa jivati. That means one who does not follow this cycle of sacrifice, he is living a life of sin. Sacrifice is essential. But again, here it is said, those who are directly devotees of the Lord, even if they didn't perform these sacrifices, there is no fault on their part. Actually, not only are they, exempt from performing these sacrifices, but they are considered to be superior to those who are actually performing these sacrifices. How is that? Because they are directly worshipping the Supreme Lord. They are devotees of the Supreme Lord. One thing that we have to remember here, actually, I'll just read Srila Prabhupada's purport. This is from the 11th canto, 20th chapter. The title of the chapter is Pure Devotional Service Surpasses Knowledge and Detachment. And specifically, it is this verse 36. Namayekanta bhaktanam guna doshodbhava gunaha sadhunam samachittanam buddhe param upeyusham. Lord Krishna clearly explains that a pure devotee is recognized. So now, just a little background or a little explanation before we read that. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, a devotee is exempt from performing sacrifices and satisfying the demigod, so on and so forth. But who is a devotee? We need to understand Who is a devotee? Is it enough if I just say, oh, I'm a devotee now? Or is it sufficient? I have taken Diksha, I have taken initiation, so I'm a devotee, so I'm exempt from all sacrifices. Who is a devotee? So let's read. A pure devotee is recognized by complete detachment from personal desire. Therefore, a pure devotee constantly engaged in selfless service to Lord Krishna may not always observe the innumerable details of Vedic rituals and regulations. Why he is not following the detailed, Vedic rituals and regulations? Because he is completely absorbed in Krishna's service, selfless service to Krishna. Constantly. What is constantly? 24/7. There is no gap in between. He's constantly engaged in selfless service. What is selfless service? Anyabhilashita. He has no other desire save and except pleasing Krishna. 24/7. Such a person may not always, it doesn't say he does not observe at all, but he is not required. He may not always observe the innumerable details of Vedic rituals and regulations. Such occasional negligence, not that you just toss it out altogether. Such occasional negligence is not to be considered a transgression. Similarly, observance of ordinary material piety does not constitute the ultimate qualification of a soul surrendered to God. That means in ordinary dealings, whatever material piety one is observing, just because someone is a good person in society, or he's truthful, or this or that, he has some material good qualities, pious qualities, you cannot say that he is a surrendered soul of God. No. Love of Krishna and absolute surrender to the Lord's will raise one immediately to the transcendental platform, where activities performed on the Lord's behalf are absolute, being an expression of God's will. Ordinary materialistic persons sometimes falsely claim this exalted status for their whimsical, immoral activities and cause a great disturbance in society. So I'm not on that platform of pure devotee or pure devotional service, but I just put a tag or a label on myself. I'm a pure devotee because whatever reasons I may give. And therefore, I don't have to follow any rules, regulations. I don't care for the Vedas. No. Ordinary materialistic persons sometimes falsely claim this exalted status for their whimsical, immoral activities and cause a great disturbance in society. However, just as an ordinary person should not falsely claim the executive privileges of the personal assistants of a national leader, right? You have the president and you have the president's immediate entourage. They get certain privileges. An ordinary person cannot claim those privileges. Similarly, an ordinary conditioned soul may not foolishly claim that his immoral, whimsical, or speculative activities are sheltered by divine right, being the will of God. One must actually be a pure devotee of the Lord, empowered by the Lord Himself, and completely surrendered to the will of the Lord before one may be accepted as transcendental to ordinary piety and sin. So, here our verse today says, the devotees of the Lord may not perform any sacrifice or may not please the demigods as per Vedic injunctions, and still the devotees are on a higher level than the fruitive workers. So don't just throw the word devotee for anyone and everyone. Devotee means there is a qualification. What is that qualification? He must be on the platform of pure devotional service. What is the definition of pure devotional service? Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. These three conditions have to be satisfied for one to be called a pure devotee. And such a pure devotee, yes, he is exempt. Then if I'm not a pure devotee, but I'm still aspiring to be a devotee, what should I do? Isn't it? Most of us qualify, come in that category. We are not yet pure devotees, but we would like to be pure devotees. We are aspiring to be pure devotees. So then should we just go and worship all the elaborate Vedic rituals and sacrifices that are given in the Vedas? Do you follow all of them? No, you don't follow all of them. You follow those that are prescribed by our acharyas for aspirants of pure devotional service. So they are simplified. Sacrifices are there for us also, but they are simplified. Just like, for example, marriage. Marriage is also a sacrifice, isn't it? We perform the sacrifice. It's karma. It's karma. But we do that. But we do it. The goal is to come to the standard of pure devotional service. In order to come to that standard, while we are still not there and we want to get there, and before getting there, we still have to do some karma. But someone who's already on the platform of pure devotional service, he is not required to do any sacrifices. That doesn't mean he does not do. He does. As long as it does not interfere with his devotional service to Krishna, he still follows. Why he follows if he's not required to follow? So that others may not follow his example. Others means those who are not yet pure devotees, right? We are not pure devotees, but we like to imitate pure devotees. And by imitating, we'll go to hell. Imitating means imitating their external activities. So just so as not to create a disturbance in society, pure devotees, they still follow. They follow. Varnas like sannyas ashram, they follow sannyas ashram. Brahmachari, all this is karma only. Brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas, this is all karma only. They follow this. Are they required to follow? If someone is on the platform of pure devotional service, he is not required to follow, but still he follows. Why? To show the path to those who are not yet on the platform of pure devotional service by following this, and side by side chanting, right? Direct devotional service is also done, and we have to increase it to, what does Srila Prabhupada say? Constantly. There's no gap. Jnana karmadi anavritam means your bhakti is not covered by jnana and karma at any point. Continuous line of bhakti. You're continuously doing devotional service. So we want to come to that platform. So when someone is on that platform, he's a pure devotee, he's not required. Okay, so I'll stop there. Thank you all so much for your attention. We have, I think, I don't know if we have a few minutes for questions and answers. If you have.
I have a question. I'm thinking you need to be a pure devotee so that we can be exempt from performing sacrifice. So that because the Kanishta devotee, Madhyama devotees are not on the platform of pure devotional service, isn't it?
Madhyama is on the platform of pure devotional service.
But we still need to perform sacrifice, like our sacrifice, as they say, is chanting the holy name, like given
that is
by.
not, yeah, but that is not karma. Chanting, see, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. And further, right, the 64 limbs of devotional service given by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And furthermore, there are thousands of such limbs of bhakti given in Hari Bhakti Vilas. These are direct devotional service. That is not karma. It is called sacrifice, but it's not karma. It is directly bhakti. So you are required. That's the best thing we can do, chanting.
Yeah, because we're not, like a pure devotee, like Uttama devotee or something, but we still have to do certain things for us to be removed from all our karma that we are performing day to day activities, even in devotional service, devotional service or not.
So the qualification, Mataji, to do pure devotional service is, again, I can show you the quote. I think we don't have so much time, but in the same chapter of Canto 11, chapter 20, you look at text 7, 8, 9, they talk about who is qualified to do what. So if for someone to do pure devotional service, the qualification is Shraddha, full faith. What is that faith? That if I simply do bhakti, if I simply do devotional service to Krishna, I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to work in this world. I don't need to practice, sit straight and all those things. I don't need to practice anything. If I simply do direct devotional service, everything is taken care of. I don't have to worry about anything. Getting this type of firm faith in bhakti and in Krishna is the qualification for a person to do pure devotional service. So if we don't have that faith yet, then we feel, no, if I don't work, who will pay my bills? Krishna is not going to come and pay my bills. I mean, be realistic, be practical, right? This shows that I still don't have that firm faith. So then what should I do? I should cultivate my faith. It's not going to happen overnight. I have to cultivate that faith. How do I cultivate that faith? In the association of devotees. Hear about the glories of bhakti. Hear about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's glories. By hearing, in the association of pure devotees, in the association of devotees, by hearing and hearing and hearing, what happens is our faith keeps increasing. Faith in what? Faith in bhakti. And whatever faith we may have in other things, my, financial security or whatever else, all these things, I may have those things, but my faith will not be in them. So how do you know if you're progressing in bhakti, you're moving towards pure devotional service? Your faith in all these other things will go down. Even if you do it externally, you don't really believe that this is what is going to protect me. You just do it for the sake of doing. But actually, your full faith in the heart of your heart says, only Krishna will protect me. That means at any time, if you have to leave it, you don't feel even a little bit of, you won't regret. Oh, I'll have to give. No, I don't care. This is not going to protect me. You understand? So as long as we still feel that, oh, this is also required, that is also required, that means we don't have that faith yet. So we must cultivate that faith. And how do we get that faith? You get it from those who have it. Associate with those devotees, advanced devotees who have that faith. By their association, by their mercy, we can get that faith. Okay, thank you. So, shall I end the session here? Thank you. Thank you. Dronacharya Prabhu.
Thank you, Mother Arcanābhaktī. That was really nice. I guess there's always a gray area. Not everything always seems to be black and white when it comes to the application. And you ended on the idea that a lot of us are not pure devotees, but yet we're engaged in some practice of sadhana bhakti, where we're trying to purify ourselves. And I guess I guess that's the struggle in determining what applies to us and what doesn't apply to us. Specifically coming from the West, I'm unfamiliar with a lot of these traditions, sacrifices that are traditionally done, because they were uncommon to my upbringing and the culture that I grew up in. All that I know is what I was introduced through ISKCON. And so to me, anything that would be different than doing devotional service would be kind of uncommon. Like if I was asked to do something that would be contrary to what I know as service, or that would stop that service to do a particular sacrifice, it would be hard for me to understand. But I could understand that if somebody maybe who was brought up in a culture where these different karmakundic rituals and performances were there, it would be more confusing of, okay, we're supposed to do this at this time of the day, or we're supposed to recently there was a case where like a devotee there was a death in the family, and the question was, should he stop his service altogether and kind of separate himself from being around everybody for a certain number of days, or they should continue their service? Because if you're engaged in service, is that the highest thing? That's ultimately what's going to purify you, is engaging in your devotional service, or should you adhere to other forms of tradition that may be more common? So I think that's sometimes where it's like a little bit, it's that gray area of what should I? Okay, I'm not necessarily operating on the platform of pure devotional service, but at the same time, if I'm doing an activity that interferes with my progress in Krishna consciousness, or what connects me to Krishna, what should I choose at that time?
Definitely choose devotional service only. But it is about the person that you're engaging in. If the person is surrendered to you as an authority, and if the person has this faith that if I simply follow my spiritual authority, I am protected, because that is surrender. That is his surrender to Krishna. So that is why, okay, one point that I didn't say was the qualification for pure devotional service is Shraddha. A symptom of faith is surrender. Not the symptom of faith, full faith, not little faith, full faith. The symptom of faith is surrender. So if the person feels, if the person is that is actually what you said, just that is faith. That if devotional service should not be stopped under any circumstances. Now, does that person also have that faith? Right? And this faith means, even if there is some consequence, I'm ready to take, because I don't want to interrupt Krishna's service. That's also there.
Yes.
It's not that because I'm doing Krishna's service, so I should not get any bad karma from this. That is not faith. Faith means, Anyabhilashita means you don't expect anything else. Your only desire is you want to please the Lord. you don't want the Lord's service to be interrupted. So for us, the guidelines are, you just follow what Srila Prabhupada has taught us, right? If you just follow those things, and Srila Prabhupada is going to give protection. But, you face different types of people when you preach, right? ISKCON is not small like it used to be before. Now there are all types of people from all types of backgrounds. So the authority is Shastra. And the type of surrender that the devotees had for Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada was there, or his immediate disciples, even after Srila Prabhupada left, do we see that type of surrender in the devotees today? Do you see that type of faith? And if we don't see that faith and surrender, and still you say, no, you're all practicing pure devotional service, are we actually doing justice? Are we actually helping them? So certainly we must guide them, encourage them towards pure devotional service. But if they don't have that faith, then it's better for them to do their duties. It's just like you tell someone, join the temple, become a brahmachari. But the person didn't get that faith in Krishna. He joins the temple. So he's not going to be working all day for Krishna. He'll think, oh, this is easy life. Let me take rest. So am I actually helping him by advising him to become a brahmachari in the temple? For him, it would have been better for me to instruct him, you go and work, get a job, and after you work, you come and do some service in the temple. That way he would be more responsible, he would make more progress in devotional service. So that is what it means. So you have to really see what is the faith in that person. How much faith does he have in bhakti? And if he doesn't have faith in bhakti, and if he's seeing bhakti like some ritual, right? You just go to any temple, you go to Hindu temple, you come to ISKCON temple also, like that. Then in that case, they have to follow the karma, because they don't have that faith in Krishna. They have not committed, they have not surrendered their lives to Krishna. You understand? And many times it also happens that they take diksha, just initiation, by, it becomes like a, it's like I have a title, but
Yeah.
they may not have that type of surrender. Then how do you guide them? So you
Yeah,
have
it's
to
true.
really see the person's surrender, the person's faith, and guide them accordingly. So that will take, uh, advancement on the leader's part also, how to guide like that.
Sure. Yeah. No, that takes
Like
intelligence.
Srila Prabhupada was such an expert, right? He would guide each person according to, it's not like it's the same instruction for everyone individually.
No, thank you, Mataji. No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we went way over time. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vacha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo.
Namo Namah.
Ki jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.